response to questions and shit like that. If I don't get back to you, I'll try and be clever and stick the chat box on my other screen. I am recording this obviously, so everyone who is around, who isn't here can still see it. Let me show screen. Yeah, so entries, right? Like everyone seems to be saying that at the moment, what you are struggling with is the actual entry part, right? To me, the thing is, right, is the thing is, right, is the reason I say entry is the easy part, right, is because like most of the stuff should be done around building your narrative, right? Like once you start getting an idea of what you believe the market will do, right, and you've got some like valid stuff to back it up, like you know, PRIs, liquidity, blah blah blah, whatever, right? The rest of it should be should be pretty easy, right? It should just be, I'm getting into this trade. What do I need to see to do it? I need to see a sequence of events, right? And that sequence of events, for me at least, right, is always some form of a change of character, some form of supply and demand flip, and ideally, but not necessarily, some form of V-shaped recovery, right? After a mitigation and liquidation, right? So like if we take this trade here for, and it like, well, let's take a different one like this. Let's take this trade here, and we'll take this trade here and this trade here, right? Because they both present slightly differently and they're both not quite like orthodox entries, right? But the logic's still there, right? And that's the key, is not like, if it hasn't happened straight away, right? Don't get frustrated with it and think, oh, it's not going to happen, right? Wait for it. And if it doesn't appear, then the trade was never fucking yours to take in the first place, right? Like if it doesn't fit what you want to see, there's no trade. Simple as, right? Like this drop here, I didn't catch this, right? I didn't catch this. I mean, this was definitely valid. This was a really nice trade along here. But yeah, I didn't catch it, right? But here, there's no valid setup for me, right? Because it just dies, right? I'm not going to be taking a limit off of this, especially with news coming in and all that sort of stuff, right? But like this trade here, right? Can everyone hear me now? Yeah, everyone should be able to hear me now. Yeah, cool. All right, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. It's yeah, you might have to put up with a bit of that today. I'm just gonna I don't know, buy a satellite or something. Fuck it. No, the recording's still going, mate. I believe, yeah, the recording's still going. Yeah, but cool. This entry here, right? So initially, right, this morning we have that big drop, right, and then the market stopped, right? So where are we going to look for entries? Well, we know we're like at this point, right, we're looking at the market, and you know, we come in, there's a nice POI over here. It's like 16 now or something in gold candle, but it's there, right? And yeah, so we want to see that liquidation, mitigation, ideally V-shaped recovery, chop and flip, right? So cool. Well, let's just play it forward as if it was playing out real time. And the thing is, right, is the thing that bar replay can't teach you is patience, right? Is actually waiting for it to set up, because this takes a good half hour, 40 minutes to set up, something like that. You know, and it's just sitting there and waiting and not stressing out, going, oh, I've missed it, I've missed it, I've missed it. Has the trade fit your requirements? Yes or no? If no, you haven't missed it yet, right? So we've got a nice refined POI under here, right? Right, and then we get our, so we have our mitigation, right? We have our liquidation here. Right, where are we? That equals, right, and then we get this low gets taken, right? This low gets taken, and then eventually this high gets taken, right? And yes, we can argue that we have some kind of a flip in it, right? But it's not really that beautiful at this point in time, right? It's not like this isn't exactly what we want to see, right? So for me, I'm not going to sit there and think, right, I'm going to stick a limit on that wick, right? I'm just going to wait and see what happens, because currently, right, we need to look at the whole market and go, well, the market's bearish, we've just broken, right? So in theory, this low is weak, right? If we start retracing back to this low, this low is in theory weak. So we need to wait for more confirmation, right? And the market starts retracing really, really nicely at this point in time. Like it's you know, exactly what we want to see, like a nice, strong, impulsive move, right? And it's this whole impulse correction thing again, right? We see a nice impulsive move to the upside, right? And then we start seeing a complex pullback. But yeah, we start seeing a complex pullback, right? What is that complex pullback doing? Well, that complex pullback, right? We've also got to notice here as well, like what else has happened? Well, we've mitigated this, yes, right? It's probably a short in here somewhere. But you know, what's probably going to get mitigated, right? And it's probably going to be this, isn't it? Like this is probably going to be the first target for mitigation, right? Really nicely formed SD flip, runs liquidity, you know, it has, well, we build inducement later for it, right? And this is the whole other thing, is just like mapping out your day as it's going, as it's developing, right? And you just got to think, right, well, what's happening, right? Okay, well, all I'm seeing here is a huge build-up of liquidity, right? All right, so what's this telling me at this point in time? Well, this is now telling me that I've mitigated, I've broken structure, right? I've mitigated a higher time frame POI, right? I've had a change of character, some kind of SD flip, not the best, right? So we'll wait. This low hasn't broken swing structure, so it's technically weak, but we've had a liquidation. We've had a very nice V-shaped recovery away from it, right? And we're seeing runs on sell side liquidity, right here, you know, even here, these equals here, right? We're seeing all of this liquidity get taken, right? So what's the next likely thing that's going to happen? Well, the next likely thing is we're probably going to need a liquidity target, right? Which we have. So, you know, when we come down here, we just want to wait because this low is weak, right? Okay, cool. We form an inside bar, right? So this automatically gives us something of relevance that we can work with, right? An area of supply, right? So here, we just want to wait and see what happens here. We don't want to go, like at this point in time, we don't really want to go down below 1M, right? Because even this 1M low is weak, right? So we want to see something commit on a relevant time frame, right? So now we see like price push away, right? Comes back in, mitigates this. Okay, cool. So what happens now? Do we follow on and get a change of character? If yes, we've had an SD flip, all of that sort of stuff. We can look for a PRI set trade, right? And then cool, market breaks the high there, right? So it takes out the supply, right? So now what's the next likely thing that's going to happen? Well, the next likely thing is it's going to mitigate something, APOI, right? So now you've got a couple of choices. You can either just trade a limit on the 1M, right? Which is perfectly reasonable. I mean, at this point in time, the only really nice looking thing is the wick, right? Nothing else makes a bunch of sense, So you can stick a limit on the wick, right? Or you can trade the reaction on the seconds, but it really doesn't matter. Like, really doesn't matter, right? And what's our, like, yes, okay, this could, at this point, move up here, take out some of this liquidity. You know, at the moment, this is our lower high. There is a chance that price may take out all of this and mitigate this unmitigated PI up here, right? But we'll just see what happens. So here, for me, it's like partials, right? Because it's the next significant level of supply. Or you can trade the reaction on the seconds, right? Which is, it's literally just the same thing again, right? What do we see? Okay, we see the mitigation of this level, right? Okay, we see a change of character. And I mean, at this point, you don't really need to wait for a charge or a flip as well. But yeah. Then you see some kind of like you see something get respected and rejected here, right? So this is where I got in, just here, basically, right? I think a couple of guys got in like here, which makes just as much sense, to be honest. But yeah, like it's just the same thing again, right? We've just seen that completion of that cycle again, right? We've seen a run on liquidity, we've seen a mitigation, but the key is, right, is understanding what the bigger picture is doing, right? Like, this is why I say entry should be easy, right? Because once you have that narrative, right, of, okay, well, what we're doing, right, is we've had a bullish push here, right? Whatever, this, breaking this, never trade above this, break down, right? What's the next thing we're expecting? Bye. Right, straight away, like without even thinking about it, you should be able to tell me, right, that this is our 4-hour high, this is our 4-hour low, this is traded into the extreme of the 4-hour, right? So what are we expecting? We are expecting another 4H high. So what do we have to do on the M15 to do that? Well, we're going to have to do stuff like this, right? So now it's just about picking the levels, right, and getting involved, just like following. Like, the reason people find entries hard, right, is because it's not necessarily having enough confidence in the POI, right? Because you get like you see this entry model happen a lot, right, but get smashed through. But that's like the problem with that isn't that you're not understanding the entry model, because the entry model is probably valid. It's just probably not playing out at that point in time, right? Because you're not trading from the correct area. Because we see this, you know, like everywhere, right? Like even here, we have a little flip and charge, right? Oh, look, we get a smash through. You know, here again, we have some kind of flip and a charge. Oh, get smash through here again. You know, like if you're trading against everything, then you're fucked from the get-go, basically. But yeah. Yeah, so market trades into this, right? And then again, like all we need to do, right, we'll just do all of this on one, really. I might do a couple of the second entries. I know Joe took a great short from up there. And again, it's the extreme, right? Like it's the POI is valid until this goes, right? So if this gets a reaction, shorted, because it might, like this is a very valid POI, right? It's not like us picking something, you know, like, you know, various POIs, right? Like, I don't know, whatever, this one and trying to get along from it or something like that, right? The area is solid, right? But now, again, all we want to see, right, is that sequence of events, right? So liquidation, a mitigation, a change of character, and an SD flip, and ideally a V-shaped recovery. Right, they don't have to happen in any specific order. Well, like obviously the liquidation has to happen first, right? And mitigation, and then all of the other shit afterwards. But yeah, so here we see a run on a previous high, right? There's liquidity above that high, right? So we see that, right? Now, whereas currently at this point in time, right, where's our change of character? Well, our change of character line would be below this inside bar, right? So that's what we're looking for at the moment. We just need to keep an eye on PA, right? Just go, all right, well, where's our possible demand points that it could come to. Well, we've got this is mitigated by this. So really, this is our point of demand that breaks a high, right? If it doesn't trade to that, we'll go and figure out what it trades off and see, you know, what happens there, right? Okay, so cool, price reacts to it, nice, right? Does it follow through and give us a change of character, right? Not at the moment. Takes it out, right? So we've got our SD flip, but now if we look at this SD flip, right, and this is like just about like starting to really try to think critically in the moment, right? What's this SD flip done? This SD flip has created equal highs and we still don't have a change of character, right? So let's not trade from these. Let's see if we do something, you know, like at present, I'd be thinking, all right, let's see if we do something like this, then I can take the retest, right? But initially, especially with these equal highs here, I definitely want that change of character first, right? Cool, okay, market runs the highs, fine. Let's see what happens now. And then it's just sort of reading going, okay, well, now we've had a rejection, right? Okay, so that rejection runs a high. Right, so we're starting to see another liquidation, right here, another mitigation, right? Not necessarily the most valid supply in the world, but yeah, whatever, right? It's mitigated something over here, right? And remember, we've already had this happen already, right? So we're just seeing this repeat now, right? So yeah, now can we take out that low, right? If we can, again, what can we do? We can go and start looking for entries, right? So we want to take out, I mean, the low here is pretty obvious, right? Remember, we don't necessarily need an SD flip at this point in time because we've already had that, right? If we get one, yeah, great. But if it just trades through like that, right, I'm still taking that because we've had a flip, we've now had a change of character, right? So the logic of those two events, right? So, right, that's the logic of it, right? Liquidation, right? Fills sell orders because there's buy orders above it, right? So buyers get the odds, yeah, sellers get taken out with buy orders, whatever, sales get filled, right? Market reacts to an area of demand. So this is the absorption of more buy orders, right? And the failure of those buy orders to sustain a push up. Right, so we've seen this liquidation, which is those sales getting filled. Are there enough sales to take out demand? Yes, because we absorb the rest of those buy orders with sell orders, right? And more get pumped in, we hit that. Okay, cool. But we don't have a change in order flow yet, right? So we haven't seen the significant low that the buyers have created get taken out yet, right? When that low or another low that they create goes, right, we can say, okay, sellers have gained control of the market, and we know this because we can see it in like we can reference it visually with a low being taken out, right? So now, right, we see, okay, market's reacting to some form of demand in here, right? Okay, market creates more liquidity. Okay, we've got a change of character, right? Do we want to trade from this, right? Yeah, potentially, why not? You know, this doesn't make the least amount of sense at this point in time, right? But we've got liquidity and we've got an extreme up here, right? That has, we can see there's something going on in the second here, right? Because we have this little sell count. This is essentially another tiny little change of character within here, right? Because that's an inside bar. So we've got a valid extreme, right? So what we're going to do is if we have a valid extreme, we never place a limit on the decision, right? Because then you're guessing, right? We know that like the facts of the matter we have here are we have a valid extreme. That is the highest place that price can trade if this level is going to hold, right? The other, like that's the only fact we have about this at the moment. We have a decisional here, right? But the market may or may not react to that and give us that lower high that we're looking for because we have a valid extreme and we have liquidity above the decision, right? So we don't have a fact about that, right? We have a fact about this, right? So that's what we do, right? We're just going to wait and see, right? If the market gives us any form of concrete reaction to this, right? And this is where I'd use the seconds, right? And be like, oh, not the 1S, I'd use the 5S. And even on the 5S, you can quite clearly see that the market couldn't give less of a fuck about this area, right? It just pumped straight through it, right? No charge, no nothing, right? Right, just a whole mess, basically, right? Cool, so our limit gets filled, right? And then we're in, and that's it. Cool. Right, and then we can look at, and it's always like any good trade is this sequence of events, right? Like look at what, like anytime you see the completion of all of these events, look at what happens to the market, right? It doesn't hang around, like it's off, right? Like fucking see you later, right? Like even here, that, like it's counter trend, right? We counter everything. We see the completion of this event, of these sequence of events, right? It's not chance that the market moves like that. It's because the significant events that have happened, we've seen a transfer of orders from one side of the market to the other. Buyers have become in control for the short term, right? Sellers regain control up here via exactly the same process, right? Even if you take those two trades today, right? And that's on 1M, right? Like without going lower than 1M, and you know, like even if we give some buffer, right? Like even if we say, okay, we'll give 1.4 pips. Now here we'll give 1.4 pips. There's your first 30-yard day. You know, like just take out that low and trade to that high. And all you've done is this again, right? And all we're seeing here, right, is this event. But all we're seeing is a different, like the PA is different, right? But all we're seeing basically is this whole big impulse from here down, right? And then this is the complex pullback of that, right? But this is happening in the short term because the market needs to pull back. Right? The market can't just continue to go, but the sequence of events are literally exactly the same. Right, like they always are. You can wait for more and less confirmations, and obviously in the moment we all make different decisions or whatever, right? But yeah, like that's it, right? And then you know the market continues to trade down very nicely, right? This hits nice 15-minute level. I told someone wasn't valid the other day and got shown up to be a right cunt, but yeah, hey ho, we live and we learn. But yeah, here we hit a nice 15M buy to sell wicks, right? And this is what I mean about like PA has to be visible on the 15M, right? At least, right? Never look below, never just go like, oh, here is, you know, like in here's a POI, because we can't see it. There's nothing there. Like this will be thinner. Look at every single time the market moves, it comes back to a level of 15 or above price action, right? Like it doesn't have to be valid, right? This we wouldn't class as valid, but we could go down and we could say, okay, we've got sell to buy wicks, right? And there on the 5M, I believe there's a very nice looking POI. Look at that, like it's everything we look for, right? Go sell to buy that reacts to high and break structure, comes from an area that's been a run on liquidity. Right, perfect. Like textbook, right? We hit that, right? We can clearly see we've got a liquidation here. You know, yeah, this trade maybe that isn't an entry using this time frame. You don't really get a traction here. Takes this. No, that's clutching at straws. But yeah, okay, so we don't get an entry into the long and 1M, right? But now what have we done? Okay, well, we know, right, as we spoke about on the Zoom earlier, that we have this whole larger range here, which is a 2-hour POI, right? So here, all we need to look at is either the refinements, right? If we want to trade one and if we want to trade second stuff, right? Or well, I mean, here as well, right, we can say, okay, we have had a 15-minute change of character, right? We've taken this low here, right? We've taken this high here. So we have 15M bullish order flow. Okay, maybe this could come and make an attempt on this high. Highly unlikely, but maybe it could, right? So now we just want to monitor 1M and 15M, right? Like ideally, we want to see another change of character on 15M, right? If you're ever trading against, you don't have to, but ideally you want to, right? Okay, so right, we've had a very big bit of price action here, right? Probably higher time frame, right? Oh, look at that. Funnily enough, 15M inside bar. So we have a high and a low to work with again, right? We've taken the high, right? So we can say, and now on 1M, right, we can say that what has happened. Well, we can say that we've liquidated these, right? We actually create really nice equal highs there, right? And we liquidate. Okay, so now let's just wait for that change of character, right? Okay, well, I mean, even here, right, it's aggressive, but right now, like looking at that, right, we can see that we've got a nice reaction to this whole area here, right? We've got these nice buy to sell wicks, right? And I always like to see it like a buy to sell, right? Not just like, ideally, it doesn't want to be just a wick up or just a wick down or whatever. Like it should be a sell to buy, buy to sell, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, like if we take that low there, that's we can look for an entry there within reason, right? Or and look what happens, right? Whether you'd actually catch that or not, I don't know. That looks like that probably comes, taps into that and then tanks, right? But again, now what have we got? Okay, well now we've got like this has mitigated this, right? This has done this. So let's just wait till the 15M low goes, but this looks like a prime fucking suspect for continued shorts if we take out this low, right? But we've seen that same sequence of events again, right? We have seen a liquidation followed by a mitigation, followed by a V-shaped recovery, followed by a supply and demand flip, followed by a change in character. And because we're counting 15M, we want to wait for 15M to go. 15M goes, cool. Right, now we even have fucking equal highs here. You know, like literally couldn't be more perfect, right? Like everything we always say, right? Okay, on 1M you've got a 3-pip stop. Hey ho, like the low on the 4H all the way over here is weak, so that just to run that, right, is 17 off, right, without trading anything else, like just 1M, right? Market taps into it like, and do you see what I mean? Like the same sequence of events has completed again, right? What does the market do? The market fucking dies. Like it's not chance that this shit happens, right? It's not like this is the completion of a transaction, right? The orders have shifted. This is the last sell order that they need to mitigate to tank, right? But it's that same sequence of events, right? And it can happen in a different sequence, right? As long as you have liquidation, then a mitigation, right? Then the charge and the flip can happen in a variety of ways, right? But yeah, like, you know, like here, right? We can sit here and we can go, oh, okay, yeah. Like, I mean, even here, actually, to be fair, right? Sorry, I should say that to a degree, we can say we have a valid extreme, right? So cool, let's not even trade, let's just trade the reaction. Let's just trade the reaction to the decision, right? If you ever have anything that you might be worried about as a valid extreme, just trade the reaction. What happens? The market comes in and it charged, right? Like it doesn't have to flip at this point in time. You've already had all of that shit, right? So now you're just waiting for that in, right? There's your entry. I'm sure on a different time frame that would be a candle 2M maybe. Yeah, 2M. There you go. There's your entry. All right, or 3M or something. I don't know. But yeah. Thanks. Yeah, there you go. All right. It's your entry. Like trade the reaction for decision. So essentially when price is tapped into the zone and we go to the second to find an entry, we just want to see price structure and then tap into the previous stage. Like, don't need to find any block and etc. Well, all of like essentially most of that work should be done already, right? Like, unless we're like this trade up here, right? I shorted up here. This was a bit fucking risky, but whatever. I had a good day, so I didn't mind taking a punt, right? But I couldn't really see what this had mitigated, but I saw the run on these highs, right? I'd taken like, I'd shorted in here, took a break even on that eventually, and I tried to scale in like here and took a loss on that, I think. But yeah, that's neither here nor there, right? But then after the run on the highs, right, we just did the same thing again. We came in like here, right? We had a big liquidation, right? We had a change of character in the flip. So I just hit that. I was like, fuck it. I'll happily take a loss. You know, like I'm pretty confident that this is coming down. Right. Yeah, it might need to mitigate something higher. Hey ho, if it does, I'll take another loss and I'll get back in up there. Now I know the potential that trade has got. I can literally get that wrong, what, 60 times? Right. But yeah, like it's always the same sequence of events. Right. So essentially I don't. Do you want to hold on, let me unmute yourself, mate. May talk me through that question. Sorry, who's, I don't really know how to use this hands up shit. Oh, Gus, yeah, cool. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself now, maybe.
Hey, what's up, Sam?
Yo, brother, how are you?
Good, good. So essentially what I was asking, right? Like once we tap into, can I draw on this?
Mm-hmm. Should be able to, mate, with annotate, right?
Yeah, just give me a second. Let me find it. So once we tap into here, right? Like, and then we show here, we just want to tap. We just want to hit sell when it comes back into this previous range.
Yeah, if it's reacting to the decisional, we don't need, yeah, like just get in it, mate. Like for me, that's like a lot of the time on, especially on the seconds, right? I don't sort of think about it like I'm looking for all of this shit, like these engulfed candles, blah, 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 whatever, right? Like for me, I think I shorted that basically when I saw it reject that range, right? I was just like, cool, that's enough. Let's go. Right. Like,
okay, I got you.
Like it's a riskier way to trade. Like ideally you do want to see, but even here, like again, if you wait here, you like that's the next entry I took was after we took out this low, right? We had our flip again, right? So it's just the same sequence of events again, right? We've pushed into a POI, we've mitigated. I mean, you could have got in here, which is probably a bit safer, waiting for the change of character here, right? Like we tap the range, we give a change of character and an SD flip here. There's your entry again, right? Like,
yeah, a lot of the times, like I'll get to the seconds, but then it feels like I'm waiting for perfection, or you know, I don't see exactly what I want to see.
yeah.
At the first like possible entry, and then I kind of give up on it. But if you just follow price down, like you're saying, I mean,
yeah,
we have multiple entries down.
Mate, like you could have hit this, like, well, you could have had reasonably, you could have had a limit on this, right? You could have hit it again with like a sell stop here, right? You could hit it again on the mitigation of that. You could have hit it again, like
right.
Here, you
There's one here too.
Here again, here, even here to a degree, you know, like here very definitely, right? Like again, we just come out, we give like a break of a low, we have a flip here, right? Like you can just follow price. Like if it's doing that, right, just follow it, man. Like, but it's this thing of like just being patient with it as well, right? Like just waiting for that completion of events, right? Because the logic is the transaction, right? If you try to think of it like that, has the money changed hands yet, or are we still waiting for it to change hands?
Okay.
Right. Once it changes hands, that's our key to get in, right? And that's defined by that liquidation, because that's the first part of it, right, with orders being filled, right? Then the mitigation, because that's refilling other unfilled orders, but by the interested party, right? Like unmitigated sell orders or whatever from the previous POI, right? Then there's the flip and the change of character. So the flip is the actual visible transaction, right? Buy orders or sell orders being absorbed and taken out of the market, right? Then the change of character, showing us a visual representation that like, you know, like a low or a high has gone, right? So we've actually seen the flip, like the absorption and then full completion of that, like because they've taken out a range and then mitigation of that, and then it goes to hell. Right?
Okay, so just so I have it right, you know, that would be liquidation, then mitigation, and then you would have your flip here, and then you just enter here, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like I'd say, yeah, cool. We've seen that, right? We've seen those buy orders get absorbed. Now they've been taken out, right? So yeah, we can just enter here. Right.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That helps a lot.
Cool. Difference between mitigation and inducement anywhere in the content. Mitigation and inducement. Sorry, oh wait, hold on. Let me answer the first question first. But would you consider second, third entries only when project? Yeah, mostly, mate. Yeah, like when everything's aligned, right? You can just hit everything basically, right? But it's like, you know, it's like because well, yeah, just look at the way price moves when it's pro trend, right? Like if it's going to follow through, it's going to follow through, right? Like just be confident with it. It's like here, right? It's a bit harder to trade all that continuation shit because price fucks around because you counter trend, right? Like you can't just hit every range here because price ends up running it because it needs to generate liquidity for this move later on, right? Does that make sense about the pro trend CT stuff? Mainly CT, I'll just trade one position, sometimes two, but yeah, mostly one. The difference between mitigation and inducement. Right, so inducement is just a point of liquidity before your POI, essentially, right? So yeah, like here, right? This creates liquidity, just like all it's a fancy word for liquidity. We started using it because a guy called Reem uses it, and everyone thought he was God for a while. So we decided to nick all of his terms basically, and just got stuck with them. But yeah, like inducement is a point of liquidity before your POI, because basically it's orders getting filled, right? So that's what yes, exactly that, mate. Yeah, because you want to see orders getting filled, right? So when we see, like, if we let's actually draw a diagram of the transaction, that might be an interesting thing to do, right? So we see, like, in a perfect world, right? What we're going to see is equal highs built, right? We're then going to see those equal highs get run, right? We're going to see like this come into the area of demand, the demand attempt to put in a high, run liquidity there, right? Break down, and then we're going to have a slow retrace to here, and then we're going to map. Right? This is like ideal world scenario, right? So if we talk about the logic of it, right? Above here, right? We are seeing sell orders get filled, right? Because we know that there are sellers in the market here pushing price down. So logically speaking, we can assume that there's going to be stop losses above here, right? So buy stop orders, right? So yeah, we see a run on that, right? Then we come down and we see this get filled. So this is the first part of the transaction, right? Sell orders getting filled, right? Comes down into an area of demand. This absorbs buy orders, right? There's resting buy orders here. There aren't enough to run the high, sell orders overpower via running liquidity and filling more sell orders, right? Then we see those sell orders are present in the market because we see this logo, right? This low should have put in a new high. If it doesn't, there's going to be unmitigated sell orders because there's an imbalance, right? The only reason that price moves like that is because there's an imbalance in sell and buy orders, right? So there's more sell orders here. So we can assume that some of them weren't filled, right? So when price returns to it, it's going to refill them and fuck off to the floor. Yeah, Leon, mate, yeah, cool. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, mate. How you doing?
I'm all good, brother. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. A quick question relating to what you said a minute ago about having the confidence to trade from the POI you've marked.
Yeah.
So we're on 15 minutes, right? We've got a POI, we've got interaction, we've got liquidity flip, we've got a breaker structure, all of that, but it doesn't make sense on the 15-minute, right? So we flick around to find a buy to sell to buy that's engulfed. We get to the 30-minute, we've got a perfect buy to sell to buy candle that's engulfed.
Yeah.
Does it have to make sense on that time frame in terms of interaction, breaker structure, and all that? Because previously I found great areas on 15-minute, which is what we're looking at. Go to the 30-minute, I've got that perfect engulf candle, but it doesn't necessarily break structure on the 30-minute, or it doesn't do all of that shit on the 30-minute.
Do you know what? There's a good example of this last night, isn't there?
Yeah.
Up here, you mean? Like
Yeah.
this is a really good candle, right? That's what I based that on. Yeah, this here, right? No, it doesn't, mate. Because basically what we're trying to do is just find the where the price range, right? But we know that here, so yeah, essentially you're asking, can you mark that as your range and still have the relevant stuff on the lower time frame, right?
Yeah, so it makes total sense on the 15-minute, all of the things we want, interaction, liquidity sweep, breaker structure now, but it isn't it isn't engulf candle. We go to the 30-minute, we find a perfect engulf candle, but on the 30-minute, it actually hasn't broken, it hasn't got a chop, for example.
Yeah, no, that's fine, mate.
So which 15-minute we're concerned with, then we find the relevant engulf candle on a different time frame, and it doesn't have to make sense on that time frame.
Yeah, exactly. Because all we're trying to do is find that engulf range as such, right?
Yeah.
Here, that would be a prime example of, okay, well, like here, if we're looking here, right, we can say here, but we can see again, it's this whole thing. Like reasonably, we could probably mark that whole thing there as our range, right? But then we could go down, or like at this point, we could just hop around some timeframes and go, all right, well, what have we got in here? You know, we've got 5M, you know, we've got this. Yeah, have a look at that, but we can still see that there's a bigger engulfment there, right? Because we have this to this, right? So we can probably refine our range a little bit to that at that point in time, right? But then we can just look around as well and go, all right, well, yeah, 30M. Okay, well, yeah, that makes complete sense. So that's okay. Our range to.
No, it's long. Cheers.
Yeah, like it's the same as this, right? Like here, right? You know, on 15M we've got this whole range, right? We can see this whole range gets engulfed, so we can go and find the engulfed candle, which in this case was on 2H. Right? Yeah, we have a little break of structure here, but yeah, like it's not significant whether that's there or not really at that point. That's our whole range, basically.
Yeah, so the 15 minutes, the critical one, then we find the engulfed candle.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to find the thing that can give us our relevant price window to look in, I suppose.
Yeah, spot. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, does that make sense to everyone? If is the engulfing candle valid if it engulfs? Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. Sam, do you look for liquidation, mitigation, flip chops on 1M, then drops to 5S to play? Sometimes, sometimes not. If it's depending what it's tapped into, like Joe took a trade from up here today, right? Which if I had noticed it, I would have taken as well, right? Like here, right? We can look at this and we can go, okay, well, where are 1M POIs in here, right? And yeah, we've got this, right? We get no reaction to that, so that's fine. Right, but then you know we've got like something up here. I wonder if we go on 2M if it make it cleaner. Not really. 30s, is there anything there? Yeah, there's these little engulf candles up here. right? So if we hit something like this, right, like this whole area up here, and I'd probably, like at this point in time, I'd say, okay, well, that's potentially equal highs. I've got an engulf candle here, so I'll just treat this whole thing as the extreme, right? Then I'd be happy to be like super fucking aggressive and just be like, well, if it's going to go from there, it's going to go, right? And then, yeah, we get, it's a bit of a ratchet flip, but you know, it's there, right? Again, like you see, we get price comes in, you know, it creates little equal highs there, but at this point, you've just got to say, well, fuck it, right? It's either this or the whole level goes, and I'm happy to take the loss because, you know, I know the potential of the trade, right? But yeah, it's done the same things again, right? Liquidate the high, giving us a flip and a change of character. No V-shaped recovery this time, but you know, the V-shaped recovery isn't the most significant thing, right? And then yeah, off it goes. That was quite a fun trade, actually. I bet you were shitting yourself through that if you're on the call, Joe. I don't think he is. I think it's working, but yeah, it's the same sequence of events again, right? So yeah, it depends if it's from a refined area or not. If it's from a refined area and I've got everything in my favor, I'm more than happy to take the trade. Is the engulfing candle valid if it engulfs more than one candle? Yes, very definitely. You mean like that, right? Like this is a good example of it. Like that, right, David? Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah. Still very valid. We just like we treat, you know, something that's probably going to be a larger range from this. Like you could reasonably look at this whole range here, basically, because it engulfs the whole range, right? If that makes sense. Yeah. But does that clear up entries for people? Like try, if you're trying to think of it in like this model, right? So try and think of it like it doesn't have to be exactly this, but it has to be this sequence of events, right? We've seen 3 examples here of the same, well, 4 examples here of the same entries or the same events happening, but in a different sequence and with slightly different PA, but all of the events are still there. And that's what we want to look for, those events, because try to think of it as a transaction, right? I need to see the sequence of events to confirm that a transaction has happened in my favor, right? Then I can jump on that, yeah? Yeah, does anyone else have any questions, anything like that about entries? Yeah, fire away, mate.
Hi, mate, thanks. I was just wondering, do you slowly base the decision whether to take the seconds entry on whether or not you have a 1 minute refinement? Or is it also like dependent on pro trends, counter trend, all this kind of stuff? Because sometimes I have the feeling with the seconds, even if I would be counter trend, it would be so well positioned. For example, today here in this one, we went through, right? If you would have gotten in somewhere in here, maybe even here, I don't know, you would have not have to live through all of this pullback.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you also have not as much confirmation as you got. So basically my question is, when do you wait for 15-minute shock like you did on the 3rd entry that you showed, and when do you wait for the 1 minute shock, and when you just hit it on the seconds once you see it?
Yeah, cool, I get you. So yeah, like here, right, we've had a break of structure, right? I wouldn't be happy taking just a second shot against the break of structure, right? Because we don't know when this is going to stop, right? It might not stop here. So I'd more at that point, like if we're counter trend and had a break of structure, I'll wait for like a 1M shot, right? And then trade that. Yeah, the entry model is super fucking simple, mate. When we had a break of structure, wait for a 1M shot just to confirm that there's some bullish intent in the market, right? Pro trend like this, right? Pro trend, pro order flow, right? Seconds from here all day long, right? Or seconds from here, or like all day long, right? Then here, like at this point, if we had a hit, I mean, yeah, I took a trade there anyway, but we won't go into that, right? But if we had a hit a 1M thing here, right? Because we're pro-structured at that point in time, right? I'd be more than happy to take a second entry for that as well, right? Because we're pro-trend. We may counter order flow at that point, but we're not, we've got trend in our favor, right? At this point, we have neither trend nor order flow in our favor on 15, right? At this point, we have order flow in our favor, structure in our favor. And then at this point here, we have structure and order flow in our favor. So there it's seconds as well, right? It's about what's in your favor. So yeah, like if you haven't got, if you take like 4H, well, if you just keep it simple and keep it on 15M, if you've got at least one of them in your favor, I'd be more likely to use seconds, right? If you're against both, 1M. Does that make sense? Yes, no, bollocks? Yeah? Cool. What's the other question? Can you explain why inside bar is related with church? Yeah, wait. Hold on, so we just wait for supply to be turned into, yeah, find the right PI. So again, yeah, literally that, mate. That, yeah, exactly that. Inside bar is church, right? Because if we're looking at inside bar on a line chart, where it's from, like here, right? No, like this is an inside bar. It's irrelevant whether the inside bar trades at this high or trades here, right? It's still traded within this candle. So if you look at that on the line chart, I know it's not a very good example on the line chart. Fucking line chart's making me look like a cunt. Well, right. So what we've seen is price do this, come up and be contained within here. Right, so that's your inside bar, right? So we have a low and we have a high, right? High gets taken, low gets taken, right? That's irrelevant of whether the inside bar is here, here, or here. As long as it's inside the previous high, that's the price action you're seeing. Any advice to backtest journal effectively? Case studies, mate. Like, I'll write a little bit about case studies because Brian taught me to do case studies really well. But yeah, essentially don't try to backtest bar replay, right? Because you don't learn enough from it. You don't learn patience, which is the fucking most difficult thing, because you think everything happens in 15 seconds because, you know, you can click a button that many times. But yeah. Yeah, so case studies, like basically find valid trades and just mark them up with all the price on the screen. And then once you've got that done, you know, like how we've done this, right? Like literally just mark up trades like this and then go through everyone and validate them, mate, and find out what is valid about them. These limit. Markets, limits, I don't tend to use personally, mate, but that's me. Like if you're trading 1M, like here, I'd happily stick a limit on this. I just trade a seconds confirmation off of there and then use market. Stop orders, a good example would be like here. Right. So at this point in time, again, we've seen everything play out, right? So we've had our completion of events, right? So then I wouldn't put it there because I wouldn't be confident enough in where my stop was. I don't think, no. I wouldn't want it like halfway there. So here I'd stick a buy stop like above this, something like that, right? Because I'd just say, okay, well, it's either going to come into there and that's going to fail or not, and I can get my stop in a reasonable place, right? That's one thing I've started doing a lot more with stop orders, is because most of the times when you take a hit on them, it's from doing dumb shit like this, right? Like trying to take it on the way up, right? Which, yeah, isn't the best. I mean, even here, you could say you'd have to be fucking quick with that though. But yeah, you could say I'll wait for the reaction and then put stop order above the reactions. But but yeah, mostly I use market execution because I know it gets me into the trade, right? And I'm lazy and don't like to use limits. I just like to click a button. Can you give us the top 5 things go over in case studies? Yeah, like, yeah. So yeah, in like the way I would always work case studies, I gave this advice to a fair few people, is to initially, right, if you really want to nail it, take the concepts apart by themselves, right? So yeah, that's it really. Structure, then liquidity, then SD, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, does anyone have any more questions on entries or not? Is that cleared everything up for everyone? Sorry, there's a whole load of shit over that chart. Yeah. No more questions? We're good? All right. It's just down to it's down to finding the right level, and yeah, that's it basically, right? It's why like everything is the level that you trade for, right? Literally. Understand that, understand structure, right? The first thing to do is understand structure, right? Like, why did I keep shorting this? Because everything's fucking bearish, right? It's why, like, at this point, right, there was a beautiful buy from down here, right? I didn't get involved because all I was thinking at this point was shorts, right? That's all I wanted was shorts. Oh, mate, she's fucking melting. I love that. But yeah, like, hope that makes sense for everyone. Quite a short one, but yeah. Well, good guys. Well, cool. I will catch you. When will the video be up? I will try to get it uploaded tonight. My internet is notoriously not good. So it could be at any point between tonight and some point in 2023. So yeah. Yeah. Cool. Just buy an internet company. I might just ring up Elon, mate, to be honest. Just say fucking look, sort out your Starlink shit. But yeah, for the weekend tool, the backtesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, we can do that then. No worries. One more cue. Yeah, fire away, dude. Oh, Yanni, you've got a question as well. Hold on. There's a couple more questions. Yanni, you should be able to talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I mean, it's just like a confirmation, because basically I understand your logic, like the liquidation mitigation. Like, I think, yeah, okay, I get it, the structure. I think just like I get it on like theoretically, but I think like when it comes to practice, it's like naturally doesn't operate for me like that. But like the moment we start speaking about the higher time frames, so what does kind of go together, and then it actually aligns with liquidation mitigation, flip, and church. Basically, if we just wait for those breaks of structure on the higher time frames, and we can still focus on the same ranges,
yeah,
and then it's basically the same. It's actually liquidation mitigation, blah, blah. It just doesn't. It's it just doesn't flow with my mind like this. But it's basically the same. So if we wait for the higher time frame, let's say we've done all the whatever weekly, daily, 1 hour, 4 hour. And then in the 15 minutes, we have that break of structure. Just if we don't rush into it, we wait for that break of structure. We actually also technically do liquidation mitigation flip boss.
Everything, literally everything is the same thing on every single time frame. Look, over here, right? If you just want to trade 15M, look, we get liquidation, right? We get mitigation of a 4H POI over here, right? We get a flip here, right? We react to this point of demand here, and we get a change of character up here, right? Where does our flip complete? Our flip completes there, right? It's the same, like this is the entry you take on the 1M. You know, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant, right? Like the time frame is literally irrelevant, right? It's the same thing. We have exactly the same sequence of events. The market's fractal. Everything we ever talk about is applicable in every single time frame. Literally, I will never tell you to do something on the seconds, apart from maybe look at a gap, right? Because gaps don't exist on the 4H. That's the only difference I'd ever say. Everything else would be just as relevant on the 1 second as it would be on the yearly time frame. Right?
Yeah.
It's like time frames are irrelevant, right? It's just the same data set presented faster or slower. Like
Yeah.
more participants in it, basically. But yeah.
I mean, like technically, so like just ranges make so much sense to me when they are aligned with higher time frames POIs. So I'm just feeling like, I mean, if like in terms of like the stuff we also discussed earlier on Discord and stuff, so the rushing comes from not waiting for that break of structure on the higher time frame. But then it's also, but it's then like if we actually have that range in the POI on the higher time frame, then that's the flow. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, like it's just like learn to like stay off the lower time frames, right? Seriously, don't spend your days on the lower time frames, because that's where everything starts going wrong, because you get lost straight away, right? Like if you're sitting here, right, and you're looking at the 1M, we can talk about the completion of, you know, like this move here. Right, and fine, that's cool, right? We can trade that, you know, probably some logic in that, I don't know, just, yeah, whatever, right? Like here, you can short that, right? We could say, but that trade is not.
Yeah, I wasn't that sure, exactly.
Like it's about like we work top down so we can get in when the market's all synchronized, right? That's the whole point of it, basically, is that synchronicity, right? Like,
yeah.
I always, personally, I struggle, right? I'm sure you could all hear me on Monday, right? Going, I have no fucking idea what's going on today, right? And do you know what I did after that? I stopped trading because I had no idea what was going on. I was comfortable admitting that. I was like, do you know what? Like London, I took 2 shorts that were against trend. I missed the fact that we weren't going to liquidate those lows today. I walked away. I was like, do you know what? That's good enough for today. That's fine, right? The rest of the week, as soon as we broke structure, I was like, okay, we're bearish. I'm just going to sell. Right?
Yeah.
Because I saw everything was aligned. But yeah, it's just about having that strong higher time frame narrow. Yeah. Timbo, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, man. Just one more thing. With the range continuations, I've noticed sometimes that we just tap the top of the 1 minute range without coming to specific POI, or at least I couldn't find it in some occasions.
Yeah.
And there was so much momentum that we had we tapped the 1 minute range, had a 5-second change in order flow, and then ran off.
Yeah.
And other times, this is just then building liquidity, and then it comes lower to specific POI. So how do you differentiate between the one and the other, where it just runs off, or where it just builds liquidity and comes specific?
To be honest, I'd probably just take the loss. That one I don't have an answer for you, brother. Like that's probably where I take a lot of losses. You know, is if I'm just being aggressive, because it's like, okay, well, it's hit something and it's given me that, and that makes enough sense. And then, yeah, you get induced or something like that, you know, but it happens, brother. Like, it's one of these things, right? Like it's.
So I'm just trying to be less aggressive when I'm counter trend and be more aggressive pro trend.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like that is the main thing, right? Like there's a reason that I took, you know, 2 trades over here. As soon as I started seeing the mitigations up here, I took like 1, 2, 3, 4. A loss, 5, 6, 7, another loss somewhere in there, 8, 9, missed that fucker, but yeah, 10, 11, 12 trades in 2 days, right? And a bunch of losses, and well, yeah, probably more losses than that, probably about 8 losses in total. I just can't really remember where. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Like it's just about like, as soon as we get everything pro trend, that's when you're going to find me doing shit like this, because it's like, we're pro trend.
Yeah, it's perfect. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we always take losses. Always. Yeah, exactly. Like honestly, like I fully agree with Woody though. Like you just like losses that they happen. No, hey ho, who gives a fuck, right? You don't get anything for life and free. For free. But yeah, cool. cool, brothers and sisters. I will speak to you all soon. Yeah, big love, guys. And yeah, if you haven't sent congratulations to Lewis yet, send him congratulations. Guy's a fucking daddy. Imagine that. Yeah, peace and love, guys. Bye, 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 bye.